Hello everyone, my name is the Ultimate Spy, and welcome to another episode of Reviewed number 166. And today, I'm going to be reviewing the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So what did I think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Well, actually, I quite enjoyed it. It was a very fun movie. I've only seen it a couple of times in the past, and when I saw it years ago, I was terrified. I think it's because of Judge Doom's final appearance, like his tune form. That terrified me. My goodness, like especially when he gets steamrolled, because I don't really know how that's even working. Like, how do they do that? I can't remember. I mean, I think there's like a special feature thing I can look up, but I never understood how they pulled it up. How are they able to get Christopher Lloyd to get like steamrolled, and then obviously be this squashed tune, and then reveal that he actually is a terrifying monster tune, and he is red-eyed, and it's oh my god. But in general, I thought it was a very well done movie, especially since it takes place in the 40s, the late 40s, but it obviously is an 80s movie, a late 80s movie. Actually, I think it came out right before Back to the Future 2, which is very interesting because it's obviously directed by Robert Zemeckis, who directed the entire trilogy Back to the Future. But since this came out before Back to the Future 2, it's interesting how they use the same film location as in Back to the Future Part 2, which is interesting because that movie didn't come out until the next year after that, in 1989. I'm pretty sure. And so it's interesting how they did that, because it's by the same guy, and also Christopher Lloyd was in this movie too. It's kind of like it's cool that they got to work together again, and I know it's just cool to see Robert Zemeckis doing another movie with him, and also be able to, the music is very similar because it's obviously composed by the same guy who composed Back to the Future trilogy. And in general, it was a cool little thing because when you watch Back to the Future, there's a scene. I think it might even be from the first one too, where there's like a tunnel thing, and they direct for that, and that's the same film location as the tunnel that Eddie Valiant goes through to reach Toontown. Same film location as in Back to the Future 2. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the same location. But still, I really enjoyed this film, especially for a hybrid film. By that, I mean like it combines animated, hand-drawn cartoon characters into a live-action setting. It's set during the 40s, but because it's in a world where toons exist, it's a hybrid, and so like you have the actors interacting with actual cartoons, which is very interesting. Basically, the cartoon aspects of it is basically like one big cartoon crossover. Essentially, they have they have cartoon characters from Walt Disney Studios, released from the 40s and everything like that. I think that only goes up to the 40s. It's not like Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland and all the other stuff like that. It also has Warner Brothers, like Looney Tunes and all those characters, and then the old-timey classics like Betty Boop, which I really don't know anything about her really. I've never really seen anything with her in it. I know she was one of the first black and white characters. In general, it's cool to see like all these cameos from all different kinds of cartoon characters, like Dumbo, like half the cast of Fantasia, Mickey and Minnie, Pinocchio, Goofy, Donald, Dumbo, obviously, Bambi. So many characters out there that are from different animated films that Disney has made. It was really cool to see like a giant crossover film with all the different characters, especially with most of the original voice actors. Not Disney himself. Disney himself doesn't actually voice Mickey, but they have a lot of the original voice casts. Like for example, between the battle between Donald Duck and Daffy Duck, that actually features the original audio from Donald Duck, which is amazing. And speaking of that battle, the battle of the pianos, that was my favorite scene, probably out of the entire film. That was awesome. It was so cool to see that done, especially since the very beginning of that scene, the original voice actors' audio archived is featured. The first thing you hear Donald say is actually the original voice of Donald, which is very cool. I love it a lot. But that piano battle off thing was awesome. It was so cool to see that kind of come together, because it's like two different ducks from two different studios battling, and I think Daffy even makes a joke about a speech impediment, like having to battle against a guy with a speech impediment, because Donald has a speech impediment, but then again, so does Daffy. He talks like with a lisp. He talks like this, like I can't do it. That's like, it's basically like Sylvester from Looney Tunes combined with, well, basically they had the same problem with their talking. So Sylvester like this. and Duffy is like, I can't do it. Okay, that's the best I could do. But it was cool to see that kind of like, I guess, a joke out of that, because they both kind of have a speech impediment, which is very funny. But in general, it was a great scene. I just love that scene. It was fantastic. It was so cool, and they couldn't have done it better than that. That was probably my favorite scene in the entire film. So now, I wasn't a huge fan of Mr. Maroon. He's basically the guy who gives Eddie the job to do all this photography stuff, and I don't know why, but he almost never has a smile on his face, like ever. Like, I mean, there are times when he does smile, but like he mainly has like his brows furrowed, and just like he looks so angry, and it's like, I don't know what that is about. And yes, he does die, obviously, and I'm glad he does, because I did not like him. He was an asshole, you know? Like, that's the point, because he never looks happy. He looks very angry and very serious about stuff, and he's just like annoyed. I just like, ugh. I don't think you're supposed to like that guy. He's just not a good guy, and I'm glad they killed him off, because my goodness, what an asshole. I mean, he just there to do his job, but at the same time, it's like, come on, I mean, he's the guy who does the Maroon cartoons with the baby and Roger, but my goodness, not a fan of that guy. Speaking of the baby, though, what baby is that? Like, what? Who is he? What is he? Why is he there? Why is he a thing? And the reason I'm saying that is because the baby in this film, the one that smokes. First of all, why did he smoke? And second of all, why does he sound like a middle-aged man? Like, he's a baby. I don't get it. I mean, the opening cartoon is very cool, because it's kind of reminiscent of Tom and Jerry just a little bit. I mean, it's obviously a classic, 40s style cartoon, because it's set in the 40s. But at the same time, it just reminded me of Tom and Jerry because of the whole cat and mouse thing, where like horrible things happen, and it just like ends up being a mess, and Roger tries to stop and fails to do so, and it's like, and then it turns out the whole time that cartoon, they're actually filming it, which is crazy. It's like you have like, cut. It's like, oh wait, he was really an actual, like, they were actually filming it the whole time. Like, who do you know? Like, crazy world, right? Now, because this film was set in the 1940s, Dolores and his girlfriend, I mean, you really can't tell if they're together or not. It's really hard to tell, but she is. They are seeing each other. It's not very obvious, but they do have a connection, and basically, she represents the 40s women, like the 40s beauties of the time, and it's pretty obvious. She's like this beautiful woman who's Eddie's girlfriend, and she looks like the classic 40s woman with the the red lips and the shiny red nails, all that stuff. I mean, it's obviously a point to make, because that was the fashion, that was the trend during the 40s, was that kind of beauty style, and she is a very attractive woman. That's definitely for sure, and it's kind of the point, because it's the 40s. Women are supposed to be very attractive, but at the same time, she's more than just that. She's actually helping him, making sure everything gets done, and works as a waitress. But my goodness, she is a sight for him, especially for him. Like, my goodness, she is attractive. My golly, seriously, it's the 40s. Women look like that. That's the way it is. But yeah, the lips and the nails, like, whoa, shiny. I mean, that's just what I can say about it. But yeah, still. Actually, one of the things that's interesting about the film that I kind of noticed was that despite being set in LA, most of the characters have New Yorker accents. It's really weird, like, New Yorkin, like that. Like, everyone knows a New Yorker accent, especially a thick New Yorker accent. Like, they kind of know what that sounds like. If you were in New York and you would say, "Roger Rabbit," like that. It's kind of almost sounds British in a way, but not exactly. I mean, there are times when you can kind of hear it some British, but it's obviously American, but it's like a strong New Yorkan. So it was interesting how most of the cast was New Yorkan, especially the main character, Eddie. The actor himself is actually British, but he's obviously playing with the character with a New Yorkan accent. I mean, most of the cast are New Yorkan, except maybe I think Jessica Rabbit's is just L.A. But like, it's weird how it's set in L.A. but yet most of the cast talk with a New Yorkan accent. It's so weird. I don't know why that's the thing. I've never understood that. I mean, maybe not all the cast, but I guess some of the cast do. Some of the cast do, which is very strange. I don't get why that's a thing. Now, like I mentioned at the start of this review, how this film combines hand-drawn animation with live-action setting. Now, this isn't the first one to do that. There's been a lot of movies in the past that have done the whole, incorporating animated characters into live action, having the human characters interact with the cartoons. It's not the first time it's happened. You know, Song of the South was the first. I haven't actually seen the movie. I've seen like little bits of it, but like because it was so racist, they never actually got a proper release, which is unfortunate because that movie is referenced a lot in Disney, especially like, you know, at the on the rides and stuff. There's like Splash Mountain is actually based on that movie, that which never got released. Really, like, I mean, I think it got a release, but I think it ended up being like banned or something because of the racism in it or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it's just like, first of all, you have a ride based off this movie that never actually got released, sort of, and then it's like, I mean, it goes on in history as being one of the most racist Disney films, but at the same time, it was one of the earliest hand-drawn animated live-action hybrids that they made. And this is another one of them. It's a very classic one. This film is probably the earliest hybrid film that I've seen. I mean, it's still a classic. It's an amazing film, but Song of the South did come first, even though I never actually saw the movie. I think I've seen like one scene probably from the song, the Zippity Doo Dah song. That's it. Because it's like on the rides. It's like, but why is it a ride if it never really got to an audience? I don't know. I think Disney had a problem with racism at the time. I mean, in general, when that movie came out, the 40s, racism was a thing. So, but at the same time, why is the ride still there? Why is Splash Mountain still a thing if that movie hardly got a release? I don't understand it. But still, it's interesting how this is one of the earliest hybrid films. It's very interesting. One of the things that I found really silly about this is Benny the Cab, who is a tune cab. He basically a tune car. There's a scene where he obviously gets like, you know, he can't go anywhere because his tires are all flat because of the dip, as Judge Doom is calling it. The dip basically kills tunes, essentially. And he gets in a very badly damaged 1940s style car, obviously, you know, the Roger Rabbit is driving it. But he gets in the passenger seat. It's like, huh? A car in a car. Basically, it's literally a car in a car. A car is riding in a car. It's like, huh? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think the idea is it's supposed to be still. It's like, oh, this is cartoon logic. I mean, there's a lot of cartoon logic in this film, like, oh, the classic, you know, gone too far, there's no floor beneath you. I don't know, 5 seconds later, you drop to your death, basically. Especially when Eddie's in Toontown, a lot of cartoon logic, like when he gets onto the pole, Tweety's nest is there, and it bounces up and down. It's like, wouldn't it have just fallen off the pole? No, because it's a cartoon. Anything can happen in a cartoon, so obviously it is not. So yeah, a lot of cartoon logic in this film, especially with the cartoons itself, especially with the tunes. Like, yeah, a lot of that happening. But I just found that particular scene very silly. Also, there's actually a controversy, I guess, with Jessica Rabbit, because, you know, she's supposed to be this sex symbol of the film. That's kind of the idea. You know, this beautiful cartoon woman. And what's really crazy, I think it was a video about, like, you know, top 10 most paused scenes in live action animated films or Disney films or whatever you call it. This isn't really an official Disney film. I think it was like a hybrid because they had Disney characters in it, so I don't know. I mean, the characters are there, so that kind of makes sense. But there's a scene where Benny the Cab with Eddie and Jessica runs into a pole because of the dip. And there's a scene, like, I couldn't really catch it, where Jessica pops out and then, like, spins around and lands onto the ground. But before that, like, there's like one shot where if you pause at the right moment, you can see her under her dress. It's like, I mean, I can't remember exactly where that happened, but it's like, I think that scene got a lot of controversy. I don't know what exactly happened. It's like one of those things where they really catch it, but like, I mean, it's not something, not like a big deal, but it's like, I mean, I think they might have released it again without that. I think the original release had that, but I can't remember exactly. I'm not sure, but just another, you know, little controversy about that. Like, oh, they found out that Jessica Rabbit's undergarments were showing, like her more of her skin was showing than was supposed to happen. But still, that was like a very strange thing. And overall, a lot of cartoon logic anyway, but still very interesting. I mean, she's supposed to be like a sex symbol, kind of like Betty Boop, but like at the same time, it's like, ugh, what are you gonna do? Now, one of the things that shocked me for life when I first saw this movie, and this is one thing that makes me terrified. Well, not anymore. Maybe when I was a kid, but now it's like, oh, that's creepy. It's not something that really like gets me really a lot, like at all. I just feel, I kind of get like, oh, here we go again. So the one scene that really gets me a lot, and I think I play around with the idea a lot, like, like Play-Doh and stuff, is scene where Judge Doom, he gets steamrolled. Well, first of all, I don't know how they do that. Like, how do they get Christopher Lloyd to, like, get steamrolled like that? They must have a dummy or something. I don't know exactly. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. He gets steamrolled because originally he's trying to crush Eddie for some reason, and he gets in the way. Like, I think it's super glue that he gets stuck to, and then it stuck to the wheel of the steamroller, and then, like, he gets squished, very slowly squished, and it's like, oh my god, that would probably crush your skull. I mean, obviously, that's kind of the idea. But basically, he reinflates himself using a oxygen thing. Somehow. I don't know exactly how that works. And then his head pops off, his eyeballs pop out. Ugh. Yeah, he becomes a terrifying Toon. With red eyes and a squeaky voice. He is terrifying. And that's kind of the idea. Like, I think I even watched a top 10 scariest scenes from non-horror movies. And that was one of them. It's like, yeah, it's... Especially when you look at his eyes, like, the Toon eyes... I think he's like a hybrid, sort of. I don't really know. I don't know how it really works, but like I think it revealed like, oh, he's just a mask. So he's the evil Toon who killed Eddie's brother and a couple of people like that. So that particular character is terrifying, especially when you know what's gonna happen. And how he reveals himself is like, oh, he gets squished, he reinflates himself, and suddenly he's this terrifying Toon who wants to kill Eddie. And one last thing before I wrap up. This was just weird. I didn't understand why Eddie didn't move out of the way. So it's right when Doom, in his Toon form, is basically trying to, like, saw Eddie in half. He gets this giant saw, like, kind of like razor saw, and basically, like, makes it bigger and bigger. And then, like, Eddie doesn't move at all. He looks at Doom, and then he looks at a hammer. And then he keeps looking, but it's like, why isn't he moving? Move! It's like, I never understood, like, why isn't he just moving? It doesn't make any sense. Why did he wait? I don't know. That's pretty much all I can say about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's a good film. It's honestly really good, and especially with Christopher Lloyd in the role. I mean, since I got to be in the same room as that guy, I know his career. So I think I'm gonna give this movie a 9 out of 10. I mean, I talk about the things that I was not comfortable with. I mean, obviously, Doom is one of them, but also Mr. Boone. Whatever. Obviously, cartoon logic. And I don't know about a favorite character. I like Dolores. That's all I can say. Mainly because she's a beautiful woman. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Reviewed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more episodes of this series and of the series that I do, as well as other content. Also make sure to click that bell to enable alerts to miss some uploads, and I'll be back next time with another episode. Great, see ya.